Is a $1,000 XRP about to happen sooner than people think? With the Clarity Act, ETFs, and settlement systems modernizing before our very eyes, we are going to outline the clear crypto catalyst that could bring XRP not only to a triple-digit price target, but to a four-digit price target before it's all said and done. The NASDAQ, the New York Stock Exchange, Swift settlements, and the United States government have all identified the potential that XRP and Ripple can do when it comes to expanding global markets. We're also going to show you how Jake Claver and Dom and Phil from the EZA app, as well as other prominent crypto influencers, have gone on public platforms to predict a four-digit XRP. Hello and welcome back to another episode of Good Evening Crypto, your favorite crypto news related channel. If you enjoy this content, smash that like button and subscribe as you get an update every single day, 5:30 p.m. Eastern time. And today is going to be a very special episode. So be sure to stick around until the end of this content so you have a full understanding of if XRP can reach $1,000 and if it'll happen sooner than the average investor anticipates. But we're going to start right here with this brand new podcast out of Paul Barron. He interviewed Dom and Phil from the EZA app, and Dom has gone out and made this proclamation on several different occasions. He believes we are going to see a $1,000 XRP before the year 2030. Now, for the Jake Claver community, a lot of people fall into the same category where they think global settlement systems are in the process of modernizing, and XRP is going to be used as that revolutionary technology to bring the global economy to fruition. Whether it's Japan, China, the UAE, or the United States, all these different economies have begun the process of adopting Ripple's technology and, of course, using the XRP ledger. But this market really expands after regulation occurs here towards the back end of 2025. So if you believe we're about to see a mass adoption moment, show us some love, smash that like button, and be sure to stick around for the entire video because this is an episode everyone should be aware of. But we're going to start right here with Paul Barron asking Dom the question, how do we get to $1,000 XRP?
You know, you had, I think it was $1,000 price thesis. Was it based on the Swift model starting to shift, the growth of the XRP ledger, or potentially the growth of stablecoin, or kind of a combination of all?
Yeah, I mean, that's an interesting question, and a lot of people asked for the sort of more detailed explanation, which I'm currently working on sort of putting out. But I think, for the purpose of this, at a high level at least, it's a combination of all of them. Obviously, Swift is a big component, but then a lot of it is actually driven by the use cases that we're actually seeing on the ground, in person, in real life. All of these incredible projects that are coming out and actually utilizing the XRP ledger in different ways. Obviously, DeFi and finance are a huge use case, but then also, like I was talking about before, billions and billions are transferred internationally from people in the US to people abroad. Both in terms of business, remittances, but then also in terms of charity, and all sorts of use cases. And ultimately, when those applications really start to get used on an institutional level, that's really where you start to see not only more activity on the XRP ledger, obviously a huge, multiple times explosion, but also you start to see people focus more in terms of just, retail, looking at the tech underlying. That's why companies like NVIDIA, for example, have seen, 1,000-fold increase in the price, is because, retail start to come and they start to see, AI is really taking off now. What's the best way I can actually invest in that? It's through, the products that NVIDIA makes. And so ultimately, I think, that's going to be a really interesting part of the whole story, is when, those sort of 93% of people, obviously, less accounting people who don't have access to the internet, etc. But, that huge proportion of people who don't currently own crypto come into the space and, figure out that XRP exists.
So we're going to play the end of this clip as well, Johnny, but I think he makes a very important point about the modernization of this banking system already taking place. Donald Trump gave a speech a couple of months ago where he said, we are bringing the United States banking system into the 21st century, leveraging blockchain products. He left no room for conspiracy theorists. He told us what the game is. Well, I think Dom and Phil make a great case here about why every single company, not just the banking system, not just the United States government, but every single company operating in the 21st century should be leveraging the Ripple technology, or at least something similar like a Stellar, an Algorand, a Hedera, or even one of these blockchain protocols like a Chainlink. So here's the end game. Thousands of companies purchasing these digital assets, not only building and developing real-world assets, but using them to improve modern businesses. Mario gave a great example of this last week. Every single day, Amazon does $6 billion of international payments. $6 billion. Leveraging a blockchain protocol like Ripple offers today, they could save $40 million daily. Every single day. That is north of $1 billion a month that could be saved by these companies who switch to a modern settlement system like Ripple offers. And now here's the best part, Johnny. When Ripple goes to these companies and he says, or they say, would you like to use Ripple payments and leverage the XRP ledger? And they say, well, we don't want to move away from the US dollar. Well, now we have the solution. The RLUSD stablecoin gives you all the functionality of the XRP ledger while giving you the benefits of staying with the US dollar derivative. This is the moment we've been waiting for as crypto investors, where the biggest economies in the world start flooding capital in a way we've never seen before. And Dom really focused on retail investors. I think retail investors are the backbone, but these institutions will be the funnels that put retail investors into this market. And with the approval of 19 different XRP ETFs coming in October, I think the flood of capital that people are predicting, they are far underestimating the power of the XRP community. Just yesterday, the CME Group announced XRP's futures contracts were the fastest ever growing fund to reach a $1 billion market cap. Imagine what a spot product can do. That happened in 3 months. The Canary Capital CEO is predicting $5 billion in just the first 4 weeks for the spot ETF product. That alone could push us to a $60, $70 price target, not putting us very far from triple digits. And once we get to $100 XRP, guys, the next wave of investors is going to be looking at that $1,000 price target. So there's a logical journey in order for us to get there. And many of the catalysts that we're betting on happen towards the back end of 2025. But live chat, I'd love to hear ones if you agree, twos if you disagree. And if you're enjoying this content, be sure to smash that like button as it greatly helps out this new channel. Johnny Crypto, what's your initial reaction to his realistic outline for how we get to $1,000 XRP and the modern settlement systems that are going to be responsible for bringing us into the 21st century?
Well, here's the deal, Abs. When you were playing that, the first thing that came to my mind is I worked for a top 50, one of the largest companies in the world, in the top 50. And I can tell you our motto, their motto was, we need cheaper, better solutions. That was actually a thing. It was literally one of the cheaper, better. And why am I bringing that up? Well, because that's exactly what you just described the blockchain does. It's going to bring cheaper, better products to the market. For example, Amazon. You don't think if they can save $40 billion per day in fees on transactions cross border that they're not going to be tripping over each other to go get that technology? Of course they're going to do it. So when you sit here and you say to me, you know, what's the probability of blockchains being adopted and pricing going up? The probability is 100%. It's going to happen. It's going to happen. When and how quick, that's what nobody knows. And everybody's got these predictions, right? A year, 5 years, 10 years, and so on and so forth. The reality is this. When you look at history and you look at the internet, it took a long time to kind of, you had these two phases. You had a speculation phase, we got the 3 digits, and then you got, 10 years later to get to that next, above 3 digits. To me, what's different about this time and why I don't think it's going to take necessarily as long is because once we get these technologies adopted and running, Abs, we don't have to go build businesses. Like the idea of Amazon becoming a $1 trillion company, there's a speculation value that people were jumping in 1997. But we didn't realize that $1 trillion until like 2020, all right? And so you had to wait a long time for that to happen. What's unique and different here about blockchains is when they get adopted, they're going to instantly start working and transferring value on the blockchain, which is going to drive prices up. So while I've been the one saying it's going to take time, and I do think it will, I don't think it's going to take anywhere near the 14-year period we went from speculation to real utility prices back then. I think it can happen much, much faster. So when you ask me, Johnny, can it happen in 2028, 2030? Absolutely. I do believe we could be sitting there looking at 3 and possibly even a 4-digit XRP if multiple companies start adopting that technology and we see the world. Now, I don't think, listen, it ain't going to be one blockchain to rule it all, okay? XRP is going to get a piece. HBAR is going to get a piece. Ethereum is going to get a piece. I know you don't want to hear it. You're going to say, Johnny, Ethereum's old. Don't matter. Don't matter. It's going to get a piece of it. But all we care about, Abs, is we get a big enough piece of pie. Listen, the world is big enough. There's quadrillions of dollars being transferred. That value is all going to land up on a shit ton of different blockchains, and they're all going to drive it up. So for me, I think the road to 1,000, if you want to call it that, or what they've got there, is definitely I can see a path. Let me put it that way. To be able to, if you were to say to me 5 years from now, can you see it happening? I would not argue against it. If you tell me it's going to happen this year, I'm going to argue like no freaking way. But 3 to 5 years from now, I certainly can see us abs on a path from 3 to 4 digits.
And I think this has a lot to do with the election of Donald Trump, which took place in 2024. Not only has he made the proclamation that he wants to make America the crypto capital of the world, he's been calling himself the crypto president during this second administration. But this is the second part of that statement. Here it is.
Less accounting people who don't have access to the internet, etc. But, that huge proportion of people who don't currently own crypto come into the space and, figure out that XRP exists.
Yeah,
so
well, and you've got the
pressure upwards on the price.
Exactly. You got the obviously the ETFs, but I think also the professional money managers will start to see it.
Exactly.
Digital assets in general, and it
and
changes
it'll really benefit.
outlook.
It'll really benefit the top 10, I think, and obviously the top 5, we'll see the biggest increases, Bitcoin, Ethereum, XRP, etc. But then also, the fund managers don't often like to delve really far down. And take more speculative bets. So the ones with the most volume, the tokens, that look the most attractive to them, will be naturally the ones on the top of that coin market cap list, so to speak.
And Johnny Crypto, lucky for us, XRP is the largest based United States digital asset. That is going to work in favor of these institutional investors who start, like Canary Capital just launched a fund. It's called the American Crypto ETF Fund. They're going to invest in the top 10 largest American-based digital assets. Well, what's going to be the number one allocated project in that fund? It will be XRP. And when you look at some of these other funds that are denominated with Bitcoin, Bitcoin typically consists of about 60 to 70% of that. Imagine if these American funds start launching and they're 60 to 70% XRP, 10 to 15% Solana, and then 5% and below for the rest of the allocation. That's what we're seeing. So we can realistically anticipate that. Now, here's the other end of the coin that's even more important. The modernization of settlement. NASDAQ, SWIFT, the European Stock Exchange, the UAE. All of these different economies are becoming interconnected through blockchain technology. And the major premise here, you need a blockchain to get it done. Why not go with the largest, most reliable product in the market today with what Ripple and XRP have created? What do you think about Dom's theory, $1,000 XRP and how we get there?
I think there could be a credible path to get there, Abs, when you think of all the different use cases and all the different dominoes that are in the way that will fall. ETFs being one of them. That will help us get a certain lift there because that's going to do two things. It's going to bring liquidity into the market and it's going to legitimize this space. And then, you have to understand when this market first starts, crypto is new to the world. The big players, the big, stockbrokers and suits that are going to be pushing this thing to retail are going to want to play a safe bet. I couldn't agree with him more. They're going to do the top 10. They're not going to want to go deep down into the lower stuff yet. That's later. That's in years where after they've saturated and they've milked. And I mean, when I say they, I mean the suits that are going to be calling all the boomers and saying, you need to get into this. You got to move your 401k into it, right? That's going to happen. Once they saturate that over a year, 2, 3 years, then they're going to be looking for the next thing. And then they're going to go further down the list. And they're going to be looking for, okay, hey, let me get you in these things that are kind of smaller and have upside potential and more smaller caps because now you're in the large caps already. And you're going to see this thing get segmented just like stocks, large cap, medium cap, small cap, so on and so forth. I saw you wanted to make a comment. So if you want to chime in.
Quick comment here, guys, is that we've already seen some of these prices dramatically increase over the last couple of years. XRP went from 40 cents last October to now $3 during a pullback in August of 2025. But I love to draw the correlation between the Tesla price chart and what we witnessed with XRP, because Tesla did not only have 7 years of accumulation below its all-time high, it also was sued by the SEC. And when the lawsuit was resolved in 2019, that's when this historic bull run took place, where the price went from less than $9 during its bear market low to north of $430 on the price chart in just 18 months. If we extrapolate this and apply these same percentages to what XRP is doing today, we're looking at a $3 XRP, Johnny, being north of $75 in the next 18 months. Smash that like button if you agree that is absolutely possible. But Johnny, here's what I would say. We've seen it in more difficult capital markets. If a Tesla price chart can accomplish this, it's historic goal. If I had told you in 2018 that Tesla was going to be $1 trillion market cap, that would be more crazy than telling you XRP could reach $75 in the next 18 months. Well, now these narratives are working in our favor. Resolution in the lawsuit, Clarity Act coming towards the end of the year, and ETF products set to be approved inside the United States. The onboarding of retail investors through institutional products like ETFs, it's just kicking off here in 2025. And Dom and Phil also predict that this could be the largest inflows we've ever seen. That includes Bitcoin. Here it is.
So for sure. I just showed Canary Capital announcing their XRP Solana ADA. This was like their American-made crypto thing. We had Stephen on last week. Great conversation. But Stephen made a very big statement. And his statement was he believed that XRP, their ETF, would be the biggest ETF yet in all of crypto. Dom, I'll start with you. Do you agree with that in terms of inflows? This is just in reference to inflows.
Yeah, I mean, I definitely would agree with that. I think, even if you just look at the XRP holder base, it's so big. And, I think XRP volumes are, some of the highest on Coinbase, and, the trading volumes are really the highest on many of the different exchanges, or amongst, at least the top three after Bitcoin. And I think even just after Bitcoin, actually, in the most recent Coinbase report. But, Bitcoin, Ethereum, and Solana, Bitcoin, Ethereum, and XRP, those are the, definitely the most liquid ones and most traded names. And I think, people who don't hold crypto and who don't
they're going to defer to those top three crypto assets, Johnny. And just last bull market, it was Bitcoin, Ethereum, Solana. Now it is Bitcoin, Ethereum, and XRP number 3, even above Tether, depending on the value for any particular day. But the point that I wanted to focus on with this, Johnny, 19 different filings. But here's what's most important. $2 trillion in assets under management. There are tens of millions of customers. You heard me right. Tens of millions using these companies today. The second that Franklin Templeton picks up the phone or puts out a website update that says we now offer crypto products, we believe XRP is better for retail investors in the long run than Bitcoin, which is what they will say eventually, there's going to be millions of people that are onboarded that day. And that's what I think we're on the precipice of with all these three catalysts tying together. The lawsuit's over, so XRP is unlocked in the US. Clarity Act is going to come in and provide clear rules and guidelines. There's going to be no reason for any company to not use blockchain going forward. And you heard what Charles Hoskinson said. This is going to enable companies like Apple, Amazon, Meta, Google to all launch the crypto wallets that they've been building in the background simultaneously after regulations are approved. That's 3 billion new users. Here's the icing on the cake. The 19 different ETF products that are going to be offered, creating the capital inflows that will lead to XRP's price going from $3 to $6 to 12 to 25 to 36 to maybe, who knows, maybe we could reach triple digits before it's all said and done towards the end of 2026. A lot can change in this market, and I'll even double down on that. Charles Hoskinson said $10 trillion crypto market by the end of 2026. If XRP captures 10% of that, that's $1 trillion asset. That's $17 per token. I'd love to hear chat. One's in chat if you think we get there. Two's in chat if you think we don't. Johnny, what's your reaction here?
My first reaction is, are you ready? Are you mentally ready to begin acting like an elite and being able to take profits and dump on retail? Because that's how this game is played. And that's what's coming, Abs. When you talk about these numbers, 17, 25, 50, 75, 100, the question is, are you ready? Do you have a plan to figure out how you're going to handle a situation like that? Because that's a very stressful situation. If we're sitting here right now at a $75 XRP, are you selling? Because you're going to say to me, oh, yeah, I would sell. But no, because the news and the brokers then are going to tell you it's going to 150 or it's going to 1,000. And it isn't. My first reaction,
really quick, which isn't funny because a lot of people are going to lose money in this market.
I know.
I think people need to have a realistic perception. We're not talking about selling your XRP. I think a lot of people get confused, especially newer investors. We are not talking about selling XRP. If you don't want to sell your XRP, you can just take a loan against it. You can sit for 10 years. Do not be dismissive of the bear market. And this is what I think Johnny is trying to get at in his whole speech. People underestimate how low these prices can go in a bear market, just like they underestimate how high these prices can go in a bull run. And I just wanted to provide that context because for newer investors, Johnny, they're going to hear you say selling their XRP. They're going to click off the video. They're going to get confused. They're going to talk about this guy's talking his book. We got an application that teaches people how to take profits. That's not what it is. What it is that we learned this lesson back in 2021 when XRP went from 17 cents to $1.90. That's an 11.5x in 4 months. And then it came all the way back down to 20 cents over the next 6 months. That is why we preach this narrative. We learned it firsthand, and we are much earlier than people anticipate. So if you do have the mindset that you can stomach a bear market, more power to you. I plan on doing the same thing. I'll be totally transparent, Johnny. If XRP goes to $1,000, 80% of my XRP is not getting sold. I'm taking a very small amount of profit because I'm not overvaluing the bull market. I am overvaluing what I think XRP could be in the long run. I think we're sitting on a triple-digit asset, maybe even a 4-digit asset when it's all said and done over the next 5 years. That's why I advise people either stomach a bear market and be prepared for that, or create an exit plan so you don't get cooked. But you can't underestimate what happens to these prices during a bear market.
And that's what I love about what you just said. I'm taking 80% with me, but you're selling 20. Perfect. That's what we mean. We don't mean sell all your XRP. We mean be ready to take profits because, listen, as much as we all want to believe that the stock market does this and the coin market and the crypto market, it doesn't. The only thing that does this is the Bernie Madoff chart. And when you follow and you invest in that, you lose all your money because it ain't real. Other than that, everything else is going to go up and down over time. And there are going to be great opportunities to take profits. And then there's going to be even greater opportunities with those same profits you just took to buy at lower prices, the same asset you love at a cheaper price, because that's how the game is going to be played. So that was my initial reaction when you asked me what I was thinking. I'm thinking, boy, am I ready to figure out how to play and profit in this market and not buy the hype that they're going to sell me as it's coming on. And that's what I think is important to educate our users with. But now getting back to the good news, do I think we're going to get there? Yeah, I think we can get to 2 and 3 digit XRP. And that's massively life-changing for a lot of our users if you take some off the table. And that's why, and whether you take it off or you loan it back to yourself, you certainly can do that. There's totally different ways to play it. And that's great if you do that. Because, although you have to be careful when you're taking leverage, you want to take it at low points, not high. You play it just opposite. But point being is there'll be multiple opportunities to play this game different ways, Abs, because one thing we know for sure, $3 XRP ain't going to last forever. We're going to be just the way 20 cent XRP didn't last forever. 50 cent XRP didn't last forever. $2 XRP is questionable. We may never really, maybe we'll test that in a bear. But the point is, someday down the road, we're going to be so much higher. We're going to be looking back going, how did I play this right? And so I just want to educate people because we've been here. I've been here. I've lived through this in 97, 98, 99. I've seen things go all the way up and then pull back down when people didn't think it could happen, and it did. And so you just have to be ready for it. But overall, I see the path. We can certainly, I think, get to 4 digits, and I certainly believe it can be faster than when we did 97, 98, 99, that whole thing, because of the fact that once these start working, Abs, we're going to start seeing value transferring on these blockchains very, very quickly.
Agree with you, Johnny. And we're about to cover the XRP rich list during today's episode. If you're enjoying this content, you want to support GEC, smash that like button and subscribe to the brand new channel. Now, this is an update that just came out this morning as the XRP rich list got an official update. And we've covered this in the past, but what we're witnessing right now, Johnny, is it actually takes less tokens than ever to be in the top 10% of XRP token holders. And what does that mean in really simple terms? It's more difficult than ever to accumulate XRP. And as XRP's price continues to rise, it's going to become continually more difficult to accrue a meaningful bag. Now, here's some exciting news for XRP investors. You're much earlier than people anticipate. And I think there's a large misconception out there, Johnny, that if XRP were to go to $100 tomorrow, too many people would get wealthy too fast. Well, the data tells us that's not the case. Most people have multiple wallets, and there's only 650,000 wallets with over 10,000 XRP on planet Earth. Let's say everybody has 2 wallets. That's only 300,000 individuals. You are early. So as we go through this list here, just a reminder, guys, you're a unique individual if you're even involved in this asset class. And if you're lucky enough to be in the top 10%, I think the sky is the limit over these next 5 or 10 years. But let's do the percentage breakdowns according to this brand new balance sheet. There's 690,000 accounts globally. that have between 2,300 and 8,000 XRP. So again, you only need 2,396 XRP to be in the top 10% of wallets on planet Earth. Some even more optimistic news. If you have 8,400 XRP, you are in the top 5% of wallets on planet Earth. If you have 10,500 XRP, you're in the top 4%. 25,000 XRP, you're in the top 2%. 50,000 XRP gets you in the top 1%. 100,000 is a 0.5%. And the 0.1% group is 350,000 units of XRP. Now, here's what's great about that, Johnny. These numbers highlight that the XRP community is smaller than you would think. I thought there would be millions of wallets where people had more than 2,300 units. Turns out there's less than 1 million. So as this asset class continues to evolve and we watch more and more users be onboarded into crypto products like XRP, well, they're getting into a market today where XRP was $3. Last summer, it was 40 cents. Who's to say next summer it's not $25? And the summer after that, it's $75. Well, that's really simple math that shows you how it becomes more and more difficult for retail investors to accumulate large bags. I'd love to hear, if you're comfortable sharing, what do you think a large number of XRP is? Do you think 10,000 is a large number? Do you think 100,000 is a large number? I'd love to gauge that. Throw those thoughts underneath the video. But Johnny, with only 2,500 XRP to be in the top 10% of token holders on planet Earth, I think there's a lot of people who say this is music to my ears. I am much closer to being a whale than they anticipated. And here's the best part. When the XRP price rises, these are the people who will benefit. The early adopters, the early innovators, the forward thinkers who stepped into this market, put their money where their mouth is, and now get to experience the financial gain from making that smart decision. What's your reaction to these analytics, and what are your thoughts overall?
Well, I mean, take a look at that, Abs. If we sit here and you know, we say fast forward 3 to 5 years from now, we're looking at a 3-digit, let's say $100 XRP. I mean, that puts anybody in the 10% category into a
$240,000.
$250,000. You're a quarter of a millionaire. You know what I'm saying? So like that's significant, considering that investment probably cost you anywhere from, if you bought it at 50 cents, $1,200 to maybe $6,000. And now you're talking $250,000 for an investment because you saw where the world can go. Now let's fast forward and let's say, you know, the scenarios we're talking about, the path to 1,000, that we get to that $1,000. Let's say, you know, we get a lot more adoption, things driving in, of course, the more and more momentum. Now you're sitting there looking at a $2 million account, right? Now you've broken into the millionaire phase. So you can literally see how that rich list can pretty quickly turn, even though it's a small number, under 1 million people, into multimillionaires simply by investing in a technology that we believe is going to be significant in managing the new financial system of the world, solving major problems with multiple use cases globally, not just in one country, but globally. To me, gets me very excited that even if you're in a 10%er and you're sitting there going, man, can I ever be a millionaire? I would say, yeah, even the 10%er group. Now, obviously, if you're in that 4%er group, that's a nice place to be, because you got 10,000 coins, $100, you're a millionaire, right? And you know what they always say is making that first million, Abs, is very, very hard. But once you make that first million, it's a lot easier to be able to invest that and make a lot more. So that 4% club right now, if you were to ask me, Johnny, where do you want to be? Like that 4%, people ask all the time, how much XRP is enough? Listen, that's only an answer only you can answer. But for me, when you think about the potential of getting 3 digits and $100, I think you and I believe that's very possible, reasonable in 3 to 5 years. Imagine, Abs, if you're sitting around 10,000 and in 3 to 5 years from now, you could be a millionaire.
I think it's possible, Johnny. And I think that's why so many people in the XRP community are excited about the future. And I'll even provide some more context to this. Anybody who was a Bitcoin investor 10 years ago, it was a $250 asset. If they were telling you it's going to be $100,000 in 10 years, people were laughing them out of the room. But here's the truth of the matter. The truth of the matter is that those people were correct. And I know you're excited to talk about that because you've experienced something similar with the Amazon stock where people overestimated what can happen during a bull market, but they underestimated what could happen over the long run. And I think right now what we're witnessing is the beginning of that long run for Ripple and XRP, which is why I always draw the comparison to the Tesla chart. sued by the SEC, 7 years of accumulation. Finally, the lawsuit ends. That price chart breaks out, goes from $9 to $430. Who's to say XRP lawsuit ends? It's $3. 18 months, 24 months from now, this could be a $7,500 asset if it just follows what Tesla did. And I think there's a lot of people who think it could actually outperform what Tesla's done during that 18-month time frame. Any closing remarks for today?
Yeah, so I think at the end of the day, the reality is you just have to realize that we are in an investment. We're in the beginning of something big. We now have recognized that our government has decided this is going to here to stay. It's here to play. They are going to introduce this technology to the world. They are going to help. And here's the best thing about when the government gets behind a technology, apps. They provide incentives. They provide things to help companies get started. And you're seeing it. You already heard Howard Lutnick talk about it today. And so to me, we will see governments get behind it. That's going to give people confidence. And when people have confidence, they're all going to want to invest in it. And this list is going to grow much bigger. Now, the sad part is there's going to be a lot more people in the under 10%. They might have to add a new row there, the 20%, because like you said earlier, when XRP is at $20 or $10, it's going to be very hard to accumulate 2,000 coins. That's a big difference. $6,000 versus $20,000 or $30,000 to pick up that same amount. So expect to see that list get wider and in more people filling the buckets in the 15 and 20%. For those of us who are here early, oh boy, baby, it is going to be life-changing. If you're anywhere on this list right now today, you're looking at life-changing numbers in 3 to 5 years from now. That's the best way to wrap this thing up.
And Johnny, this party is just getting started here in 2025. And I want to provide a word of caution to the newer investors. The majority of people will not make it. They will get scared out. They'll take too much profit. They won't take enough profit. They won't take profit in the bull market. They'll sell all their assets in the bear market. This is why we talk about creating a profit plan for yourselves. You need to know where you're taking profit, and you need to know the asset that you're purchasing. Understand the fundamentals. Understand what companies are building on this technology. That is going to give you a strategic advantage in this crypto market, and it's going to allow for you to act the same way that institutions do when they enter this new particular asset class. If you guys enjoyed this content, show us some love, smash that like button, and we'll see you all in the next one.